Welcome to SVR IAS Academy Civil Services Coaching Program. Today, in our current affair video lecture, we are going to see about the newspaper analysis of 9th May 2017. We are covering the news from various sources, and now let us move on to the top news of today. First, from the environmental column of Hindu newspaper, there is a news regarding Chinnar Wildlife Sanctuary. This news is discussing about the Indian star tortoise. The Indian star tortoise is a variety of turtle which is found only in the India and in Sri Lanka. This Indian star tortoise has two subspecies in India itself. That is, they were Western Indian star tortoise and Southern Indian star tortoise. The Western Indian star tortoise were found in the states of Gujarat and in the state of Rajasthan. Whereas the Southern Indian star tortoise were found in the South India, especially they were found in the Kerala region. Here we have to note down that the living Indian star tortoise is considered as an auspicious value in the East Asian nations. So in East Asian nations, the living Indian star tortoise is considered as an auspicious value for wealth. So as a result, a large amount of Indian star tortoise has been poached to the East Asian nations. Due to this kind of activity, the population of Indian star tortoise is drastically reducing in Indian subcontinent. As a result, the Indian star tortoise has been included in the protected list under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. But even though still the poaching activity is continuing, whenever these kind of poached Indian star tortoise has been captured by the Customs Department, the Customs Department send those poached star tortoise back to the wild. That is, they have sent back the Indian star tortoise to save them from the poaching activity. But the poached Indian star tortoise have been finding it difficult to adopt themselves in the zoos and sanctuaries. So it is a very big task for the Customs Department to protect the Indian star tortoise. Finally, they have decided to send the Indian star tortoise to the Kerala Forest Department, where this kind of poaching activity is most commonly found. In Kerala Forest Department, the officials has chosen the Chinnar Wildlife Sanctuary as the sanctuary for safeguarding these kind of Indian star tortoise. And now, the Chinnar Wildlife Sanctuary has become the only place in Kerala, that is in South India, to save the star tortoise in the wild region. At present, the Chinnar Wildlife Sanctuary has around 450 such kind of star tortoises which were seized from the poachers in less than 2 years. Which means in the last 2 years itself, there have been the poaching activity of around 450 such kind of star tortoises. We have to clearly note down that the Chinnar Wildlife Sanctuary is the important wildlife sanctuary which is found in the Idukki district of the Kerala. Now, to get a complete detail regarding the Indian Wildlife Act as well as regarding the various wildlife sanctuaries in India, do visit our official homepage www.comeonindia.com, where we provide the complete video lecture regarding the Wildlife Act of 1972 and regarding the various wildlife sanctuaries present in India. The next important topic is about the prevention of torture in the prison and inhuman practices in the prison. Actually, this news is taken from the Hindu newspaper, and this news is primarily dealing about the United Nations Convention against the torture and other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment which is carried out in the prisons. Actually, this convention is an international human rights treaty that is signed in the year of 1984 and it came into the force in the year of 1987. This United Nations Convention Against Torture is also signed by the India in the year of 1997, but Indian government has not yet ratified the convention, that is the United Nations Convention Against Torture, in the Parliament of India. That is, India is still pending its ratification in the Parliament of India. But after 2 decades of time period, now the need for ratification of the United Nations Convention Against Torture is very much important, because India is expecting for the extradition of its national from the other country towards his home country. That is, India is asking for the Indians who were arrested in the foreign nation to return him back to the India. But the problem is, the nations which were having the Indian people in their own prison were stating that if suppose the person is extradited to the India being not a signatory of the Human Rights Treaty on United Nations Convention Against Torture, the person may be tortured in the Indian prison and he may be treated with inhuman practices. So, on stating these kind of issues, the other nations were refusing to extradite the people to the India. On seeing these kind of issues, the Supreme Court has also stated that on the consideration of national interest, that is, in order to extradite the Indian nationals from the foreign prisons to India, the Parliament has to ratify the United Nations Convention on Against the Torture in the prison. And apart from that, the Chief Justice of India has also said that the anti-torture law is very much important for the present scenario. And it has been observed that the India is being questioned by the United Nations Human Rights Council in its regular Universal Periodic Review. The reason for questioning is that India has signed the United Convention Against Torture in the year of 1997, but still India has not ratified the law in the Parliament of India. Thereby, India has not yet fulfilled the obligations it has provided to the Human Rights Commission. It is one of the important reasons. And apart from that, nowadays the international cooperation on criminal matters were continuously increasing. So, on keeping in mind of these developments, the India is very much in need to ratify the anti-torture law. And you have to note down that the India, for the only once it has passed the prohibition or prevention of torture bill in the year of 2010. That is, in 2010, the Lok Sabha has successfully passed the prevention of torture bill, and then this bill is moved on to the Rajya Sabha for its consideration. But in Rajya Sabha, the Select Committee has proposed a lot of amendments to the prevention of torture bill. Thereby, finally it gets lapsed after some times. After which, the India has not taken any strong step towards the enactment of this prevention of torture bill. But recently, the India has moved this prevention of torture bill to the Law Commission to get its approval or get its view regarding the United Nations Convention on Torture. And it is been expecting that India soon enact or ratify the United Nations Convention on Torture in the Indian Parliament. To get complete detail regarding the prevention of torture bill and the complete detail regarding the United Nations Human Rights Council and complete detail regarding the Law Commission, do visit our official homepage www.comeonindia.com, where we provided detailed video lecture regarding these important topics. The next important news is about the Paris Climate Agreement. Actually, this news is taken from the reuters.com. It is one of the foreign newspaper and which is very much important to learn about the international affairs and various environmental developments. This article is primarily concerned about the 2015 Paris Agreement. Actually, the new United States President Mr. Donald Trump has recently overhauled the policies of Mr. Barack Obama, the ex-president of United States of America, regarding the climate change agreement. That is, Barack Obama has provided a set of guidelines to make the United States of America to cut the global greenhouse emission by the year of 2025. But the new president, Mr. Donald Trump, has made a very big change regarding the climate agreement, and by which it is very much difficult for the United States of America to meet its target in the 2025. Therefore, the President Donald Trump has been planning to withdraw from the 2015 Paris Climate Change Agreement. On this background, it is very much important to learn about the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. Actually, this 2015 Paris Climate Agreement is attended by almost around 196 nations, and among which 174 nations have signed it. That is, this 2015 Paris Climate Agreement can also be said as COP21, that is Conference of Parties of 21st Conference of Parties. This party is signed by the different kind of nations. That is, China has signed this agreement. OPEC, that is oil producing countries, were also signed this agreement. Apart from that, even the poorest African states have also signed this agreement. But now the United States of America, which is considered as the richest and powerful nation, is about to be withdrawn from the Paris Climate Agreement. This Paris Climate Agreement is primarily dealing about the limiting of global warming. That is, the Paris Climate Agreement has stated that it is planned to limit the global warming to the pre-industrial level, that is 2 degrees Celsius lesser than the pre-industrial level. That is the motto or target of the Paris Climate Agreement. The 2015 Paris Agreement is also stating that the net anthropogenic emission of greenhouse gases have to be zero after the year of 2050. That is, after the second half of the 21st century, the net emission of anthropogenic greenhouse gases have to be zero. That is the one of important topics of the Paris Agreement. In achieving this task by 2050 is a very big task, and for which all the nations have to provide their full effort to the eradication of the greenhouse gases. Only then the complete eradication of the greenhouse gases after the year of 2050 is possible. Also, many nations have submitted their INDC report, that is intended nationally determined contribution to the greenhouse gases. By providing the INDC, many nations have been planning to eradicate the greenhouse or global warming gases by then. Apart from that, there are a lot of important concepts were going around the climate change, and the important concepts were, number one, you have to know about the Kyoto Protocol whenever you study about the climate change. After which, you have to learn about the Bonn Climate Change Convention. It is also one of the important topic, and apart from that, the United Nations Convention on Climate Change is also one of the important topic which you have to learn regarding the climate change activity. And there are lot of important topics were going on in this direction, and to get all those important concepts, do visit our official homepage. We provide separate video lectures for each and every important concepts of the climate change and their agreements. The next important article is about the man-animal conflict. Actually, this article is taken from the Hindu newspaper, and which primarily deals about the conflict between the leopard and human. Actually, in the past 6 months alone, 5 major incidents have been taken place in which the leopards have been spotted in the human habitation. In all those cases, there have been many occasions in which either the life of leopard is in danger or in the life of a human were in danger. So to tackle these kind of man-animal conflict, the government has to take necessary steps to address these kind of issues. So these kind of problem can be addressed by the proper handling of the issue by the forest department. Actually, the forest department have to be provided with adequate training to handle the issues like search and rescue of the animals, and also the proper material allowances or materials like proper vehicle have to be provided for the forest department to tackle the issue effectively, because in all those cases the response time of the forest department is very poor. So to address that issue, the proper vehicle have to be provided to the forest department officials to tackle the issue as soon as possible, and also the adequate number of the tranquilizer guns have to be provided to the forest official, because only limited amount of tranquilizer guns have been available with the forest department as of now. So it is need of the hour to provide an adequate number of tranquilizer guns to the forest official to deal with these kind of man-animal conflict problems. And then the main reason of these kind of man-animal conflict is the first thing is rapid urbanization. Actually, the urbanization has been taken place in a faster manner. So since the faster urbanization may lead to the increased encroaching of the land around the forest area, so the animals were naturally entering into the human habitations. So there have to be a check regarding the rapid urbanization around the forest areas. Apart from that, due to the onset of the summer, the water were completely dried up. So the animals were in search of water were getting into the human habitations. And apart from the water bodies, the animals were also in need of foods. So the food source were also increasingly reducing in the forest area. So the animals were frequently visiting the human habitations in search of the prey, because in human habitation the prey is easily available, like goats or the cows. Likewise, the lot of domestic animals were easier prey for the leopards and lot of other wild animals. So the wild animals were entering into the human habitations in search of the prey. Apart from that, there is a lesser amount of hideouts were found in the forest, because due to the summer season, the hideouts, there is a tall grasses were completely burned and the grasses were not available in the forest. So the animals were unable to hide in its shelter. So as a result, the leopards have been moving into the human areas. And then the mining activity which is carried out in some of the forest also leads to the animals to stray into the human habitations. So these were all some of the important reason. That is the reason why the animals were entering into the human habitations. So to address these kind of problems, first of all we have to change the mindset of the people. Just like any other animals like dogs or cattle, the leopard have to be treated as a individual animal and we don't have to harm it. The leopard once enter into the human habitation will automatically walk back to the forest once it finds the threat is there in the human habitation. So we don't have to harm the leopards or any other wild animals. We have to just let them move back to the forest. This kind of activity can be done, and we have to practice or change the mindset of the people around the forest to live in harmony with the nature and wildlife. That is the way in which the wildlife can be protected effectively. To get a complete picture regarding the man-animal conflict and to get a complete picture regarding the various wildlife, do visit our official homepage. The next important news is about the Election Commission of India. Actually, this news is taken from the Deccan Chronicle newspaper, and the news is primarily dealing about the electoral voting machines and voter verifiable paper audit trail. These are all the important topics about which we are going to see. Actually, nowadays there is a lot of criticism going around the electoral voting machines, because the people or the opposition party were constantly claiming that the electoral voter machine can be easily hacked and thereby the votes polled to a particular person or votes polled by a person to a particular candidate can be cheated and it can be transferred to some other candidate. So these kind of worries were going on in the minds of the opposing parties. So to address these kind of issues, there is an affidavit have been filed in the Supreme Court of India, and now the Supreme Court has asked the response of the centre regarding these kind of problems. So the Election Commission of India is in view to introduce the voter verifiable paper audit trial in the election which is going to be conducted in the upcoming days. By having a voter verifiable paper audit trial, the person who has polled the voting process can instantly check whether his polling has been correctly casted by him. So it is one of the advantage. It can increase the trust which the people have over the government. That is, it can also boost the trust factor regarding the election process. And we have to clearly note down that it can be lead to the or verify the accuracy of voting can be also done by using the voter verifiable paper audit trial. So these were all some of the important steps which can be carried out to avoid the vulnerability which the electoral voting machine is currently facing. So to get a complete detail regarding the Election Commission of India and to get a complete detail regarding the voter verifiable paper audit trial, do visit our official homepage www.comeonindia.com, where we have provided a separate video lecture regarding the Election Commission of India, and it will be very much useful for you. The next important news is about the verdict of the Supreme Court. This news is taken from the Hindu newspaper, and from the perspective of the UPSC examinations, the important verdicts of the Supreme Court were very much useful for the exam preparations. And the Supreme Court in its recent verdict has stated that different offences cannot be boxed into single trial. That is the recent judgment which is provided by the Supreme Court of India. Actually, we know that a person cannot be punished for same offence more than once. If suppose such a kind of punishment is provided to a person, then that kind of punishment is what known as double jeopardy. So a same person cannot be punished for single offense more than once. That is, for same offense he cannot be punished more than once. That is the regular law. But now the Supreme Court of India has stated that if the same person has committed the same offense in the different locations, then this general rule of double jeopardy does not apply to him. That is, the general rule of double jeopardy does not apply to him, and he has to be trialed by individual courts for each and every offences he has committed. That is what stated in the new Supreme Court judgment. So to get a complete detail regarding various judgments of the Supreme Court, that is milestone judgments of the Supreme Court, and to get a complete detail regarding the double jeopardy, do visit our official homepage.